how can individuals and communities approach these things in meaningful and sustainable ways. So hopefully an opportunity to talk a little bit more about your work at Girls Inc., East Chattanooga Weed and Seed, and other efforts that you want to discuss.
Well, in terms of Girls Inc., we have a program called Project Bold, which is part of our motto is that we're strong, smart, and bold. And the bold part is teaching girls how to look at violence in their lives, whether it be at home, in their community, in school. And I agree with Helen that people do feel that they're potential victims of crimes in multiple places, and our girls are victims in too many cases. Looking at those issues, the girls learn how to be advocates for change, and that's part of what Girls Inc. does as a mission. One project that we had done was focusing on, it's called Safe in My World, where the girls looked at their communities and their school environment to see where they felt safe and where they didn't and what they can do to change that. We also teach our girls, in not all of our programs, but where we have funding, we teach Taekwondo. And that's one of my favorite because you empower girls to be able to take control of situations and know when force is appropriate and when it's not appropriate. There were demonstrations where our girls learned over a few weeks how to do Taekwondo, and at the end of the demonstration, at the end of the series of classes that they take, the instructor, Terry Hanner, brings in, without their knowing, for the final presentation before parents of the community, a 2x4 block of wood. And the girls look horrified. They're like, he hands it out to them, and they're like, God, what is this? What am I going to do with this? And he goes, you are going to, with a kick, break this block of wood. And most of the girls, just by learn the discipline, are able to break that block of wood in a first kick. Some 2 kicks, very few 3 kicks. But it gives them a sense that they can take control of their environment. But also as part of that, they're learning that they have choices to make in terms of who their friends are, both at school and in their community. Places that they can go, including the authorities, when there are issues that affect their personal safety. So that's what we do at Girls Inc. In terms of communities, neighborhood associations are really, really important. And block associations are really important too. Because if you know the signs to look at of a problem before it becomes a cancer in your community, if you know the signs, and this is part of the stuff that I would teach residents, then you begin to address those things in a problem-solving manner, and you bring in the parties that can really help you do that. And sometimes it's the police department, sometimes it's not. But you have to be able to understand what the underlying causes are, and not the perceptions, what the underlying causes are. So I'll give you an example. I was working with a group in Germantown, Pennsylvania. It's a nonprofit, and there were a series of neighborhood associations involved. And they said to me that the issue was specifically this bar that was across from the school, and that was the principal problem in the neighborhood. So I sent one of the people on my staff to go into the bar on the weekends and see what was going on. They said there was drug dealing going on there were people who had guns, there were all kinds of ills. And it turned out that the bar owner had a bouncer, and they searched people. And there weren't drugs being sold in the bathroom, as people were saying. The issue was when people came out of the bar, there was an issue. But then as we were looking around the neighborhood and I was gathering a lot of information from the residents, it turned out that there were issues in terms of the school across the street, which was being used for people to use drugs and commit other violent acts to mug people. And there was prostitution. And what was going on there, if I went there at night, was there was not adequate lighting. And there were multiple escape routes. So if the police were going to try to arrest somebody there, they'd have a really hard time. So we worked with the school to address those issues. Then it turned out that the prostitutes, in talking with the police, that the prostitutes who were working that area were also working another area. So when the cops would put pressure on this particular location, prostitutes would move to this other area that was several blocks adjacent. So we brought in that neighborhood association to work with them and began to address some of the issues related to why the prostitutes found that place Then a few blocks away, there was a housing authority development, and everybody was blaming the housing authority development for some of the issues that were going on. And there were some issues, but they weren't related to the bar or the school. So, you know, there are multiple other pieces to this puzzle, but it gives you an idea of how you have to first separate the perception from the fact, how you have to get multiple partners together to work on solving problems, and you have to really understand what the problems are to be effective.
I also just wanted to add on to the notion of why programs like the things that Girls Inc. do are so, you know, terribly critical in terms of crime prevention. We often don't think about that on down the road, but we know that girls or victims are more likely to become future victims and also more likely to become offenders. Boys who are victimized are more likely to become offenders at extremely higher rates than non-abused boys. And so both in terms of physical and sexual abuse of children, I think that we often neglect the long-term ramifications of that, and we kind of fail to link how that many of our social problems in terms of people being violent on down the road links back to victimization. So again, doing that preventative work early on with girls and boys, you don't often see those immediate payoffs, but the data is really clear in terms of the links there.
I just wanted to mention, since I had talked about before about keeping people in jail and how important that is, it doesn't mean that I'm against all the other things, all the other elements that are important to prevent crime. And I work with the neighborhood groups, and they do a lot of work with kids, and it's vital. I mean, we have to, the education and working with them, giving them things to do is very, very important. So I don't want you to think that I'm just saying lock everybody up. Rehabilitation is fantastic. I wish people, when they go to jail, they could learn a trade, come out, go to work. I'm just saying that it's not happening right now, and the ones that we do arrest are the problems. But all the other things that go into bettering the community, you know, I support 100% with educating the kids and working on the economic problems and all of that also.